Hi, welcome to Unit 4, Day 2. We're going to look at altitudes of triangles today. So we need to remember that an altitude is the perpendicular distance, meaning it hits the side at a 90-degree angle, from the vertex to the opposite side. Okay? Before continuing with our notes, we're going to sketch some altitudes on the Triangle Parts Reference Guide. And this reference guide is available in your folder. Okay, so if you'd like to print one out, you can try to go ahead and sketch and follow along. Okay? Alright, so we're going to sketch all the altitudes and label the orthocenter, which is our vocabulary word that we're going to get to in just a moment, in each triangle. Okay, so an altitude again starts at a vertex and it hits the opposite side at a 90-degree angle. Okay, now a lot of times we'll try to use our protractor. The problem with using our protractor on this one is that I need to go from this point to the opposite side at a 90-degree angle. Okay, and so trying to figure out how that's going to be, I can't, it's instinctively we want to go to this point because this is where we have to start from, but then to figure out how to get it to be a 90-degree angle to come down here, that's a little bit difficult. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest is you find something in your house that has a 90-degree angle. A piece of paper, a post-it note, all of those things that have 90-degree angle corners. You could even find like a box. I mean, there's ID cards I think are kind of rounded, so maybe not an ID card. I just happen to have this little see-through piece of rectangular plastic. Okay, so that's what I found for a rectangle. But again, you could use just your note sheet of paper, right? You could use that as a corner. It just doesn't show up very well, but see, that's a 90-degree angle there. It just doesn't show up very well on camera, so that's why I wanted to use this instead. Okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to go through this point, and I want to hit the opposite side here at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to line up with the opposite side, and then I'm just going to slide it over till it hits that top point. Okay? So when it hits the top point, and it's lined up with the bottom, this right here, the distance from the top to the opposite side, is my altitude. Okay, so let me get a pen so I can draw that in. Alright, so I'm going to reline myself up because I think I might have moved just a hair when I picked up my pen, or my finger, and draw in my altitude. Okay, so that's hitting at a 90-degree angle. Ignore my little whoop there at the bottom. Okay, now you can do that from every single point of the triangle. So I can turn this triangle sideways, and I can do the same thing from this point. So if I go to this point and line up with the opposite side, then here's the 90-degree angle for that one. Okay, I have one more corner left. I haven't done it from this one. So I'm going to turn again, move my mouse out of the way, and I'm going to try it from this corner. Okay, so again, I'm going to put my pen here and I'm going to line up and draw in my altitude. Okay, so those are the three altitudes of that triangle. And so the altitude is really just a height. So if I knew this side and this altitude, I could find the area of this triangle. If I know the bottom here and this altitude, I could find the area of the triangle. Or this side with this altitude, I could find the area of the triangle, and all three areas would come out exactly the same. Okay? Let's look at our right triangle. Okay? Let's see, I want to start at this point right here, at my right angle. When I come across to the opposite side and hit it at a 90-degree angle, it's going to look just like that. Okay? Now let's try this side. So I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to try this corner. So when I go to this corner and I line up, look what happens. Because that's a right angle, because it's a right triangle, the actual side is the altitude. And the same thing is going to happen when I look at this one. See how it's going to line up exactly? So the actual side is the altitude. Okay, so oops. So I've got an altitude, and then I only see one inside the triangle, unlike my acute triangle over here. Okay? All right, let's try the obtuse one. I'm just going to go ahead and leave my paper upside down since it's already upside down, and I'm going to start with this one here. So when I start with this altitude, and come straight down to the other side, so again I just lined up with the bottom. Here's my 90-degree angle. Okay, so now let's switch to this one. I'm going to rotate around. I'm going to use this one. So if I'm here, here's my problem. As I slide this over and get to the edge of the triangle, I didn't make it to my pen yet. So that's an issue, because I'm going to have to drop this straight down at a 90-degree angle to this bottom side. Remember how we did when we did the area yesterday? We said this has to come straight down towards this side as it extends out. So when you have an obtuse triangle, you're going to have to extend your side so that you can draw in your altitude. Okay, so now as I go along, I can figure out where it's going to be. My altitude is going to be here. Okay, one more side. I'm going to need to do this side. So again, the same thing's going to happen. When I slide this towards it, it's never going to quite make it here. I'm going to have to keep going and going and going this way till I make it here. So I'm going to have to extend that bottom side. Right? So I'm going to extend out the bottom. So that I can draw in this altitude. Lining up. I want to make sure I'm even and I have a nice, oops, I didn't even extend it far enough. I have to go real far on this one. Hopefully that's far enough. Alright, so lining up, traveling over, staying in line down here in the bottom, staying in line down here in the bottom until I get to this corner up at the top. And then I can draw in my altitude. Okay? All right. Now, if I look back at my notes, my original notes, it says the intersection of the lines that contain the altitudes is called the orthocenter. Okay? So I've got my altitudes here in my acute triangle, and I can see where they intersect. They intersect right here. This is the orthocenter for my acute triangle. Okay? On my right triangle, we'll look at where my three sides all come together. They all come together right here at the right angle. So in a right triangle, this is my orthocenter. Now here's what's tricky. On my obtuse angle, my three altitudes, the actual altitudes themselves don't intersect, but the orthocenter is the intersection of the lines that contain the altitude. So if I were to extend these lines further, then I could find my orthocenter. Oops, I must not have drawn a good, must not really have 90-degree angles. We're going to kind of fudge it. Okay, so here is my orthocenter. Oops. And sometimes that happens when you're sketching and you're using like odd tools. It'll happen. Sometimes you'll be a little bit off. We're not always exactly accurate, right? That's okay. It's just a sketch. All right, so again, when we look, we can see our orthocenter in our acute triangle is inside our triangle. On our right triangle, it's on the corner at our 90-degree angle. And in our obtuse triangle, we have to extend our altitudes to find that orthocenter intersection. Okay? So, back to our notes. We're going to bold the 3 altitudes in each triangle, and we're going to label our orthocenter D. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and get myself a highlighter. You could just use a regular pencil and color in, make it bold. My altitude, 1, hits at the 90-degree angle, hits at the 90-degree angle, hits at the 90-degree angle. Okay, my right triangle, this one's easy to see, but the other 2, remember, are the sides that come together at your 90-degree angle. And then on my obtuse triangle, 2 of them will be outside the triangle, 2 of the altitudes, and 1 will be inside. The one that comes from the obtuse angle will be inside. That's a little blurry. There we go. All right, and it also wanted me to label my orthocenters with the letter D. So here's my orthocenter, point D. My orthocenter, where the 3 blue lines come together, or blue segments come together, is here, point D. And for this one, I'm going to have to extend, and we're just going to sketch it. My orthocenter D. Okay? So just as a reminder, in an acute triangle, the orthocenter is always inside your triangle. In a right triangle, your orthocenter will always be at the right angle. Okay, so on the corner at the right angle. And then in your obtuse triangle, it will always be outside your triangle. Okay, so acute triangle always inside, right triangle always at the right angle, and in an obtuse triangle, your orthocenter will always be outside. Okay, all right, in the next video we're going to look at graphing and what information we know when we're told we have an altitude. Okay, thank you so much for watching.